Look lively, Gashy. We're live.
Howdy.
How you doing, mate?
Very good, mate. Yourself?
Yes. Very good. Thanks for coming on. This is the fourth ever episode of Having a Yarn. Today we have Daniel Gash-Jones, also known as Gashy, he tells me. One of the most putrid nicknames I've ever heard.
Mate, it's great. It's great. It's that good I even put it on the back of my down under 40k shirt, look.
I hope your mum doesn't call you Gashy, mate. That's all I'm saying.
No, she calls me Daniel when I'm in trouble normally. So, although these days that's my wife does that.
Okay. Lovely. So you've come on for a bit of a yarn, and we're specifically here to talk all about Team New South Wales, and in particular, the fact that you are the new team manager of New South Wales, and we're going to come chat all about that. So that's a pretty exciting little thing going on, mate. But maybe introduce yourself, because I know I'll give everyone a little story. You're new to Australia, and I'm pretty sure even before you landed, you were down messaging the Down Under 40k page asking about events.
Yeah.
So I'll set that little scene that you're keen for it. But why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I moved over to Australia start of February with work, and I guess really interested in 40k. I used to play when I was a teenager, Epic, Fantasy Battle, a little bit of 40k, and like a lot of people, kind of lost touch with it. And funnily enough, it's my work colleague in Australia. I've been actually doing this job from the UK for like a year and a half. My work colleague over here that I speak to daily just happened to mention 40k during conversation, and I was like, that Warhammer 40k, and before you know it, like a month later, I've got a combat patrol, and that was the start of 10th. And I was into tournaments within about 6 weeks, probably maybe a bit longer than that, maybe a couple of months. I've been doing RTT, GT sort of 2-3 times a month since then, really. So yeah, that's me. And then, I mean, in terms of how did I get in touch with the Down Under 40k people? So I did the Vanguard Tactics Academy sort of early on in 10th, just to try and just get more competitive at tournaments. And as you know, Lockie from Perth, he became a VT coach sort of sometime around the back end of last year, and as soon as I knew the date I was moving over here, obviously I watched him on the World Champs, knew he was a top Aussie player, just got in touch with him on the Discord for Vanguard Tactics and said, look, I'm moving over, who do I need to contact to get into the tournament scene? And he put me in touch with Alex and with Ben Way, and kind of all got into the scene from there. And I think there was the team's tournament Jade was running as well earlier in the year. I posted on that Facebook group that I'd love to play, but I don't have a team, and Jay sort of drafted me into the Mercs team. So I had a few really friendly people just help me get into the scene here really quickly, which was great. And I think that speaks volumes about the Aussie scene, and especially the Sydney scene.
For sure. I think Alex the Greek's got some precedent for inviting people over from the UK. I think he was one of the first point of contacts for a few of the boys. We've already got some grubs in the chat. Chris O'Neill, is this a Tommy Ben upgrade? We do have quite a few bald blokes in Sydney 40k. It is something in the water for sure. And we got Daniel Sherry. I still haven't got that down pat.
Empty shells. Yeah, bro, I've only just built these. So I just managed to get some content on there in time for the stream.
Oh, is that what it is? Lovely. Yeah. Well, like I said, just the start of 10th, Daniel. So he hasn't got as much time to feed his addiction as the rest of us.
I don't know, mate. I've got like 10,000 points back already of Blood Angels, and I've got about 4,500 points of Eldar as well, plus a shed load that's not even painted or built yet. So
out of control.
Not as impressive as some collections, but I've put the effort in.
Lovely. I like it. Daniel's in the chat. Sherry. So there we go. I think I knew that anyway. Someone told me that. I see you're already into the beers, mate. I forgot to announce this. Well, I was cracking. What are you drinking, mate?
Just my week.
You've embraced the Aussie culture.
Oh yeah.
I've gone something a bit wanky, as everyone probably could have guessed. It's Sick Transitions, Mountain Culture, a New World Pilsner. It's quite lovely.
Okay.
Only 5.5%. I had 2 IPAs last stream we did, the Team Australia stream, and about an hour and 20 in, I was just like, ugh. So I thought I'd bring it back down for the listeners.
I mean,
Well,
5.5% is pretty keen, mate. To be fair.
my IPAs were like 7.5, and I had 2 of them. So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I'll behave myself. So let's get cracking, eh? So you're here to talk all about Team New South Wales and your role as team manager. I guess what are we going to talk about? So we got the charter. What do you feel is your 2025 charter, and what are you hoping to achieve this year?
I mean, look, there's excuse me. Yeah, apologies to anyone watching. I have had a bit of man flu. I'm still suffering with it, so try and get through the stream without coughing my way through it. Yeah, so there's a few things primarily that I want to achieve. Obviously, build on the work that's been done over the last few years by Tim and Kirby. Obviously, specifically Tim, because I've kind of taken over that role rather than the obviously the captain and playing kind of role. So obviously, support Taylor as best as I can to take any of the admin and non-playing elements away from him, so he can really focus on that key aspect, which is picking the best team, trying to win the tournament, etc. But specifically, I really want to focus around fundraising. So one of the objectives I've got is to try and ensure there's no financial barrier to being a part of the team, so that nobody thinks, do you know what, I'm not sure if I can apply because I don't think I can afford the investment. Now it's a fairly lofty goal to try and raise enough funds to make it cost neutral for everyone, but that's the goal. I'm not sure if we can get all the way there, but we're gonna have a bloody good go.
Yeah, righto. That is a pretty lofty goal. I couldn't say if it's been done before. I guess you'd be hoping that the bid Western Australia doesn't get the bid, because that'll maybe have you worked out where the cheapest flights are? Because that's who New South Wales should maybe vote for then to get it.
So I think probably the easiest one, as far as I can work out, and I may get shot down in flames because my geography of Australia is still a bit sketchy, but I think Queensland is probably the easiest for us. Obviously then followed by Tasmania, and then WA being more difficult, but I think it's been a while since WA hosted the event, so from that perspective it'd be great to get it out there. I think that's just a personal view. Also, I mean, I don't think Tasmania have hosted it for a long time, if at all.
I would say probably never, but I might be wrong. But yeah, they're not one of the big dogs that normally get around it. But their scene's been growing. I know the local guys down there have just been putting in a heap of work for the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah. So if they do get it, it would be a good reward for the amount of effort they've been putting in.
Absolutely, yeah. But then also it'd be great to go to Queensland as well. I thought all 3 bids were really good. To be fair, so
definitely. So when this manager role came up, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you went for it, and not a playing role, and what you feel you bring to the role?
I mean, look, so I did sort of step back a little bit. So before I even knew that role had come up, the team management had opened up the Discord and said we want everyone to join. So obviously keen to get into that and be a part of it. Really, my goal as a player wasn't to aim to get into that final 8 this year, because I don't think. Well, I know I'm not at the level required to be in that team at the moment. But it was to immerse myself in it and maybe have a crack at it next year. But then the team manager, team captain roles came out. Didn't really pay it any attention at first, because I obviously wasn't going to go to be captain. hadn't really read about the team manager role. Then Greg posted something on Facebook week or two before the applications needed to be in. And I looked at it and I thought, actually, I could do a really good job at that. You know, this is actually my skill set that I do day in and day out of work. You know, and I can actually, you know, really add value here. So, yeah, that was really why I sent the application in. Honestly, I didn't think I'd get the role because I'm so new to Sydney. So, you know, to have people give me that vote of confidence and vote for me was, you know, I feel really honoured actually to be given that responsibility.
It is. I was very, very not. I guess the word is surprised, just because I knew how new you were to the scene. So I thought you must have been impressing some of the boys. But now, a lot of these guys that are listening live and on the podcast would have played a lot of teams 40k or some teams 40k. It's getting a lot more popular. It'd be 3-man, 5-man, and a lot of it's not uncommon to see a non-playing coach. But do you want to explain to listeners what kind of like the base role of the manager will be and how that supports both the playing team and the non-playing coach?
Yeah, so it's all of the organisation behind the scenes, right? It's taking as much load off the captain as possible so that Taylor can purely concentrate on the really important aspects. So, you know, I almost see it like if you think of like a soccer team, right? Think about like Liverpool, for example, who I support. Taylor's like Jurgen Klopp, and I'm like the assistant manager and also the, I guess, you know, like the guy who just manages all of the backroom stuff, all the admin, the logistics, and just deals with all of the crap, for want of a better phrase, but all the stuff that's going to detract from his time. Just lets him get out there and do his job.
Yeah, it was. I guess you'd be almost, to an extent, like the board of directors. Like you've got to pay the bills, you've got to make sure stuff's in the right place, and then he just has to worry about the on-field stuff.
Absolutely.
I guess putting on a lot of hats. Why don't you?
That's why I've brought people in to help.
Nice little segue, mate. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because after you've got that role, you've kind of expanded the team. So why don't you tell us about the roles that you've been looking to get and who you've brought on board?
Yeah, so look, I work day to day as a manager, and you know, I think part of being in that role is recognizing that you're not the best person to do every single task, and you need subject matter experts to do things in the best way. So, not least as well, we're all trying to do this in our spare time. We've all got busy lives, and if you try and take too much on, you end up not doing a very good job of anything. So, yeah, I've brought a few key people in. So we want to really go big on merchandise this year. So not just for the team, but produce merchandise that we can actually sell and make that into a revenue stream, but making things that people actually want to buy. That needed someone to actually manage that, who has got experience in merchandise, who's passionate about it, and who's, you know, who can take that particular job on. So Blake has taken that on for me, and is busy working away on that at the moment. We also there's lots of bits of collateral and design work that need doing. So I brought in Jake Tanui, so he's become our lead designer. So that will segue on to something in a minute. So yeah, anything really that is published media and image, you know, Jake's kind of taken ownership of that. And then the last role was, Jesus Christ, social media. Yeah, the important one. So again, this is like, you know, I use social media. I'm 45. I'm not an expert in social media. You know, like TikTok, something that passed me by. I've never even been on TikTok. You know, so again, I needed someone who really knows about it. And Todd Wedmeyer has been doing that for a job for quite a while. So. So he's taken that on and has been, you know, responsible for all of that aspect.
Did you end up getting your lawyer? I saw you wanted a lawyer, and a few of the boys were I think it might have been me. I'm not going to say it, but I may have said, "What are we going to do? Litigate our way to a podium finish?"
Absolutely. You've uncovered my plan, Dale.
How'd you go with that, and what's the idea behind that? And if you haven't, maybe a bit of a call out, a bit to the community.
Yeah, so really this was, and I think this is partly because of what I do for a living, always relying on, legal to navigate things that, are potentially a little bit challenging. We're looking to incorporate as an association, and I think we're going to talk about that a little bit later. There is a little bit of, there's some legal documents involved in that. Now, they're not particularly lightweight, but anything that's a legal document, I'd rather have someone who actually knows what they're talking about, that reviews it and, advises based on that. So Jim Carvley, one of my Blood Angels brothers, has been looking at that for me. The other aspect was around sponsorship, because we are looking to try and get some actual sponsors this year. And what I mean by that is not necessarily community sponsors as such, because that is another aspect, but actual corporate sponsors on a small scale. Now, that will probably require a contract. It also requires us to be incorporated as an association, so we've got our own legal identity. And to make all that possible, there's those building blocks, but it also requires someone to actually write that contract, because I'm not willing to do that myself and don't have the capabilities to do it. So that's really where that aspect comes from, and to litigate our way to the title, obviously.
That's good. You'd be surprised if you don't know. There's always something going on somewhere, whether you hear about it or not. It's a big tournament with a lot of teams. It's a lawyer on call. I think that's a good little part to get into this incorporation stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that? My understanding is you were looking to turn Team New South Wales into a non-for-profit. Is that the case? And
yeah,
can you just speak a little bit on that?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, it's actually a very simple process. It's regulated by, and I can't remember in the UK we call it the Office of Fair Trade, and in my mind that's what I keep thinking of it as. But it's it's a New South Wales state organisation that regulates businesses and whatnot. So there's a couple of reasons for it. The first one is, as I said, to give us our separate legal identity, because otherwise, as an organisation, we're just a group of guys, and it makes it very difficult for businesses to actually do business with us. So that's a big advantage there. The second one is that once we unlock the ability to fundraise to a level that we've not been able to before, a lot of that fundraising, is going to be from community activity. And I think people want to know how their money is being spent and what it's being spent on, and that it's all going to where it's supposed to be going. And when you're an incorporated association, that comes with some responsibilities. So you have to do an annual report, like a sort of financial report that's public knowledge. And I think that gives people the comfort that their money is being spent, properly. We all know we're honest people, but I like everything to be really transparent.
For sure. You mentioned a bit earlier, before we got on, that it's also going to provide a useful platform for future ANZTC bids. We haven't actually put in a bid for the ANZTC for the last 3 years, I believe. As the team manager, how do you see hosting the ANZTC again as an important step for New South Wales 40K moving forward?
Sorry, hang on. From my perspective, I think we have to host it at some point in the next few years. I think it's a really big step. Obviously, that's a responsibility that lies with the state reps. So, that's really something for Greg to comment on officially. But I would love to see us put a bid in and win that bid and host it here. I think we'd do an amazing job. I really think having that professional organisation, in place is just going to provide a better platform to put that bid in. Because, like I say, it makes it easier for us to do so many things in terms of how we interact with the business world.
Lovely. We've got some boys in the chat. Ben Corby, one of our friends from South Australia, Gash's Facebook profile pic looks
intense. Yeah, before 40k, my hobby was bodybuilding. Not that I was very good at it, but yeah, so that's Facebook pic is probably in need of an update, really, because we're a bit flabby around the middle these days. So.
And Alex is asking how much you bench. So a bit
I'm really bad at bench. Like, I've never managed to get over 120 kg. I was always very good at squats. I used to do like 180 kg for reps. 200 was my 1 rep max. I'm not bad at deadlifts. I deadlift. I think my best was 5 plates, so 220. So, but I was never a power lifter. I've never been particularly strong as such, but not bad.
So built like a bit of a pyramid. So we're strong down bottom. Is that what you're telling us?
Yeah.
Why don't we get into the fundraising side of it? Because I know a large part of becoming the incorporation is to be able to fund the team. And you mentioned your goal is that we can send the team away without them putting into their own pockets. What type of goal does that look like for you guys?
So when I run the numbers after I got the position, I based it on it being in Queensland because that was the only bid that was out at the time, and they provided like really good information in their bid actually that made it very easy to put that budget together. That's 15 grand, which it does sound like a lot of money, but with enough separate streams, it's possible. It is, like I say, a real stretch target. And do you know what? If we only get halfway there, it's still a massive, massive achievement. If we do better than that, then it's fantastic. Excuse me.
You're right, mate. Go for it.
Sorry, Dale.
I got the mic that time. When you say your cost, we're talking transportation, accommodation, food away. Would that be basically, say you are they kind of drop. One of the reason I think a lot of the uni guys and the young adults drop out of 40k is specifically because of so much money to play. Are you saying if there's any young guys living in a little 40k frat house but they managed to get their army together, the only expenses that they need to cover would be their own army to an extent? Or?
I mean, I thought about so many different ways that we do this. Do we target funding at specific people, or ask people if they, give people the opportunity to ask for it? I think the only way to do it fairly is to just split whatever funding we get across all of the players. And you know what? If we still have somebody who really is struggling, we'll just find a way. Even if I have to pay for it for myself, we'll find a way.
How do you feel breaking down the financial barriers to attending the ANZTC? Because I know there'd be a lot of players that would be sitting there and they'd be like, do you want to, and their mates were like, hey, would you be interested in playing for Team New South Wales? And then they'd be like, oh, yeah, too easy. And then the next sentence is, it's in another state where you're probably going to have to lay down $1,000 of your own money to go. What do you think that's going to do for the makeup of the team at a base level if just anyone can go?
I'd like to think it makes it more inclusive. I'm really conscious we're in a cost of living crisis at the moment, and there's a lot of people that to be asked to outlay $1,500 for what is really a luxury. It's to do with the hobby, even though it's representing the state. Just makes it completely unachievable and unaffordable. Now, there could be people that are in that position which are actually have got a lot to offer the team, and could be, really, really valuable players and should be in the team, So, so that's kind of the objective. Sorry, I'm distracted because I'm trying to find my budget spreadsheet and I didn't open it before before joining. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. I found it.
You've got it.
Okay, so you wanted me to break down the costs. So, and again, this is based on Queensland, okay? But I think they're all going to be fairly similar, unless it's in Perth, in which case, obviously, the flights will be quite a bit more. So, you know, you're looking at $110 to enter per player, $300 for flights, $240 for hotel for the 3 nights, $200 for their merch, so their team jersey, dice, markers, and then you're looking at food and other incidentals. Now it's actually so that the total overall, including the non-players, which obviously don't cost as much because the tickets are less and whatnot, but it's $12,500 in total. I think I made it 15 just to allow for some wiggle room, because costs are never what you think they're going to be. We know what it's like. Flights get more expensive the nearer you get, and you can't book flights until you pick the team. So that's like February, for example. So it's kind of just allowing for some unknowns. But yeah, it's a significant investment for someone to attend.
Yes, I would say anyone listening will be thinking 15K. That is wild.
You're talking about taking 11 guys away for 3 to 4 days and paying for food. Yeah.
I don't mean the number itself. I mean getting there. So,
yeah.
And now you've got a few different ways you want to go about it. Do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown of some of the initiatives you as team manager are going to implement to get us to this goal?
Yeah. So I haven't got my notes in front of me, so I assume you've got the notes there, haven't you, in case I miss something, but I'll do my best to do it all off the top of my head. So first of all, there is community sponsorship. So we're looking at getting some silver sponsors and then 1 gold sponsor. So by community sponsors, I mean, people, organisations within the community. Now, as it happens, we've already got the 3 silver sponsors. These will all get their logo on the arm of the team shirt, and also on any other marketing that we do. So obviously yourself, down into 40K, have kindly agreed to sponsor us as a silver sponsor this year. So thank you very much. Sorry, mate.
I said the rest of the boys don't know that yet, but there you go. Everyone else is down under 40K. Couldn't get left behind.
Absolutely. Also, J-Man from Pantheon Studios. So Pantheon are going to be a sponsor as well. So thank you, Jay. And then last but not least, Mr. Sherry, who was in the chat earlier with his company Tip Top Terrain. Slightly different type of sponsorship in the sense that he's actually helping us to make some of the merchandise as well. So kind of a dual role there. But yeah, really appreciate all 3 of you guys and organisations. It's great to have your support, really. So the third community sponsor is what we're referring to as the official partner. Now we're really looking to reach out to the sort of online resellers, and ideally ones that are New South Wales based. That's pretty much a prerequisite, I think. And we want those to be, as I said, the Team New South Wales official partner, have rights to resell our merch on their website and get some advertising capability on our social media. So I'm still yet to have them conversations because we're not incorporated yet. So we actually have a vote as a council on that on Thursday to just sign it off and agree we're going to do it. And then once we are incorporated, I can go and have those conversations with those companies because, again, I feel like that will require an official contract because they're proper commercial organisations, and they're going to want to see what they're going to get for their money. So that's one aspect, and that's a fairly significant one. The next aspect is if we can get them corporate sponsors. So again, a gold corporate sponsor. So this is company that's not affiliated with Warhammer whatsoever. And then possibly a silver corporate sponsor as well. So these are, people companies that want to advertise and be seen to be supporting, a community of people. Which let's be honest, there's a lot of people that are homeowners, family guys and girls. People that are probably more advanced in their career, as well as some people that are up and coming in their career as well. But we have a really good demographic that I think it's it'd be valuable for some companies to associate their brand with. So I think that one's a little bit less. That's the one where if we can get some of them, we might hit the number. If we don't, then we'll probably fall a little bit short. The next aspect. This is a really, really important one. This is a scheme that we're launching. This is the Team New South Wales Patron Scheme. So, and again, I appreciate we are living in a cost of living crisis, but it doesn't affect everyone. And I know there are people that really want to donate to the team and provide some financial support to the team. And I will mention some of those people shortly. So we're actually going to make it into a proper scheme, as I say, the patron scheme. So anyone who wants to donate, they have the option to remain anonymous if they want to. They can keep the amount anonymous if they want to, or they can make it public, so they can be listed in our annual report as a benefactor, a donor to Team New South Wales. Now, and there is a little gift to go with it. So if anyone donates $100, they get a bronze label pin that they can wear on their team jersey to go to events that shows that they're a donor, a patron of the team. If they donate more than $250, they get a silver pin. And if they donate more than $500, they get a gold pin. And we already have a gold pin recipient, which is Alex the Greek, who's been a long time supporter of the team financially and has agreed to do it again this year. So Alex, thank you, mate. Really, really appreciated. Greg McGinnity, state rep, has also committed to making a sizable donation as well. So thank you, Greg. Really appreciate it. And I appreciate, there's going to be a few things I'm going to talk about where I'm asking the community to put their hand in their pocket. Normally you get something back. I just want to make that clear. But I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to stick 10% of the fundraising goal in myself. So I'm sticking $1,500 in myself. So because I believe in it and I want to make it work.
We're kicking off, aren't we?
We are, mate.
The best thing about it is, Gash, you've put in the $1,500, but you're team manager. Whereas I know that Alex and Greg are both thinking about trying to play, so I'm sure I'm happy that's out in the open now, and then any bashing when they get on the team can be given to them for paying their way in. So that's a nice little start off. So if I did some quick maths in my head, if you get your other sponsors. If you get maybe a gold sponsor, a bunch of silvers, plus a bunch of personals, there's probably still a gap of like $8K, maybe something like that.
Yeah, it's fairly significant. Yeah, so there's a few
other things you guys are thinking about.
So there's some smaller things as well. So merchandise is an area that we think we can sell stuff that people really want, but we can make some money for the team out of it. So Blake's in control of that, doing a great job at the moment. We should have some merch that we're hopefully going to be selling at CrewCon, certainly on the Saturday, because I'm not sure we have anyone to actually man the stall on the Sunday. Sorry, I was just distracted by that message popping up. So we should have that for CrewCon, and we're just going to expand our range as we find our feet and figure out what the community actually wants to buy. Might be a good time to show the logo Dale? Do you think? Because that's key to the.
Let's get it going. You might have to do that share screen again for me, mate.
Yeah, let me see if I can do
that
it.
little button's on. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because the boys, I think adopted the platypus, or at least the first time I seen it was a turn an event or two ago. But you've updated the logo.
Yeah, so let me just share my screen. Where are we?
Don't look at all of your stats, boys. We don't need any internet detectives seeing what's going on.
There we go. So that's the new logo. So look, this is really Jake's baby. So there were a couple of little challenges with the old logo that we wanted to resolve. So primarily the dice were not legal dice, which we felt was that should be corrected, just because some of the logos, the numbers were in the wrong places. But also we wanted to give the team a nickname, and we come up with a few different ideas, put it to a council vote, and the name that was that was voted on was the Duckbills, obviously Duckbill Platypus. So sorry. If you think about all professional sports teams, they have a nickname, and it gives something to get behind. It's a little bit less difficult it's easier to say than Team New South Wales 40K. Now, Jake he did this on his lunch break, by the way. She's pretty amazing. He took the concept of the old logo and actually came back with this, which actually looks a lot more like a professional sports team logo. We've kept the Waratah, and then we've got these 8 bars on the side which represent the 8 players. And of course, once we start winning some ANZTCs, there's room to put some stars around the top, like World Cup winning teams do, etc. So yeah, that's the logo.
I don't know if you know much. You would have picked it up by now, but there's a 0 chance that they're going to be referred to as the Duck Bills, as we love to shorten everything. It's just going to be the Bills.
Oh, the Bills! Fantastic.
Oh, Bills! Oh, Bills! That's literally going to be it. Here comes the Bills. No one in Australia would ever use 2 syllables when they could use 1. So
yeah,
but I think it still works for sure.
I think that's great, mate. To be honest, so that makes the merchandise thing really good, because that's I think I think that's quite a strong brand that Jake's put together there. That will come through on everything that we produce. We're starting off with a few small items, some combat gauges and stubby holders, but we're going to ultimately do things like replica shirts, replica dice. The reason why I say replica is because this year the only people that will get the actual shirt and the actual merch, the actual dice, the actual objective markers, is the people that play for the team and the captain. Because if you don't get selected for the team, you're not going to be able to wear the shirt this year. So you will be able to wear a shirt, but it won't be the shirt. So it's about making it feel really, really special, because ultimately, you think about your professional sports team, right? I know we're not professional, but we're representing the state here, right? It's pretty cool. Those players are elevated in status to be sort of almost like superstars. Right now, obviously, we're not going to get all that way, but it should be really, really aspirational. To be in that spot. Which is why that the team stuff is just for the team.
Lovely. So that's that'll be another one of your fundraising schemes, and great work on the logo, boys. I would definitely, I definitely would say that the replica shirts are the way to go to actually sell some. And the thing is, because I've been trying to convince Team Australia to do like a shirt that you can buy and support for years and years, but they're always talking about how the same as what you said. It's like just for the team and just for that. But you can get something. I feel you could get something close enough, but different enough to differentiate, but also definitely makes the connection.
100%.
I reckon that'll sell for sure.
Yeah. So there's some other small little like initiatives, but I'm not going to go into them because I'm kind of conscious of time. I mean, I've got all night, but no one wants to listen to Pommy Gash all night. So the other big one that we're doing is we're looking to do an end of season awards party, which will be, if you kind of think of the concept of, and this will be around February, so just after uprising. So the end of the 40k season, rather because I know you guys do an end of your season thing, but this is like the end of the actual season. So this is, think of like a gala dinner, stroke awards ceremony, stroke big piss up, and live chat show on stage. Lots of things intermingled to be a really fun evening that gets all the community together. We can recognise some people that have like either given a lot to the community that year or just been a really great player for their faction. I don't see this as just a group of 40k geeks just getting in a room and doing this. I think it's about people. We make it so it's accessible, so it's not uber geeky, right? So it's actually a fun evening for people that aren't into the hobby. So people can bring their partner or or their older kids or whatever, and just have a really, really good community evening. So that's the idea. Just have a big bloody knees up, basically.
I'm just smiling and trying to convince my missus to come to a 40k gala dinner. She would absolutely laugh at me.
Yeah. And hopefully that should raise quite a bit. It should make a fair dent in that gap, but also be something that's really, really, in a really, really good evening that hasn't really been done before in the way that we're thinking of doing it. I don't think. I've never heard of it being. Well, there's nothing like this in the UK. Like this community here, the 40k community here is so much tighter, in my opinion, than back home. Back home, it's just so disparate, like, whereas here everything's focused a lot more, so
I definitely want to dive in about the scene back home a little bit later. I've got another one here for you, training days.
So I'm going to try and stop dying. So this is something that Taylor really wants to do, that I really want to do. This is about trying to use the team as a platform to almost to make that application process to the team, that upskilling themselves to the team, easier for people that are maybe not quite at that level yet. So I'm thinking, mid-table players, people that go to a GT but perhaps just can't get beyond 3-2, or maybe even lower down than that. So the idea is to put on these days to focus on specific things such as deployment, secondary scoring, primary scoring, etc. Movement, the charge phase, whatever it is, and get some of the vets in the community to come along and provide that training. Now we charge a very small fee, so similar to the cost to attend a one-day RTT, and it'll be a one-day event. So people are getting really good value out of it, but it's also the value for the team is that out of those people, there will be people that have got the ability to take that next step and become a 4-1 player and maybe a 5-0 player, and then potentially be good enough to represent the state next year or maybe even this year. So
that's a great one. I think maybe an avenue people would be interested in is maybe, because there is a lot of content on like learning 40k at a higher level, but if you could get maybe the pairings guys or maybe the list guys, maybe shed a bit of light on how they go about it at a teams level, I think that would have a bit of interest. I know Jay did some team stuff just the weekend past, and he had a fair bit of response to that.
Yeah.
So I think
there is content. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Yeah, you're okay.
I was going to say there is content online, but I think doing things face to face is so much more valuable. So when I was with Vanguard Tactics in their academy, I did their they do like an event. It's like a 3-hour event the day before LGT, and that was my first proper GT was LGT, and I did that workshop, and it was like 1-to-1 with a Vanguard Tactics coach. You know, and you cycle between coaches, and they focused on deployment specifically. And then you got to play at the end of it, you got to play a quick game, practice game against one of the other trainees with a coach watching over and sort of critiquing what you were doing, and it's absolutely invaluable. You know, and that's such a big fast forward compared to trying to consume things online. You know, to get that 1-to-1 with someone who really understands the game is, it fast forwards things for you.
For sure. So that would be a standalone event. Would you be looking to tag that onto any of the GTs or anything like that, or just see what?
You know what, mate? It's not defined yet. It's something we really want to do, but we don't know if does it tag onto a GT, or do we do it as a standalone when it's a free day in the event calendar? And I think it's going to come down to availability. You know, is it possible to do it before or after a GT? Because they maybe don't have the venue for long enough. You know, can we get people aren't going to take a day off work to do something like that. So, but yeah, it's something we need to define and get into the calendar basically, and then we'll play it by ear and see what works.
With all I mentioned this to Greg when he was on last time, and there's definitely been a Sydney has definitely become the hub for competitive 40K in the last few years. With the outreach, how you guys are planning on including the more rural hubs into all of these plans? Because I think it's fair to say for a lot of this to work, there's going to have to be a large investment from the community, and definitely more so than there has been in the past. So, like, what's the plans to reach out a bit wider than Sydney and engage the wider 40K community?
Yeah, it's a really good question, mate. Thank you. So, myself, Taylor, and Greg have all said that we're going to make a real effort to get out to regional competitions. You know, sort of at least sort of ideally once a month each. You know, sort of calendars permitting. So that will enable each of us to to touch those other parts of the state. I mean, there are obviously, it's a very, very big state, so it's not easy. But then there's also the kind of that elite group of players that have been part of the team for a number of years that also are getting out to tournaments as well, and that's probably less structured. But like obviously there was the big tournament in Wagga Wagga, and a lot of people went out to that, and that's a remote part of the state, isn't it? From what I understand. So
lovely, Wagga Wagga. But I
like Wagga Wagga. Oh, it's spelled Wagga Wagga, mate.
It's probably spelled Wagga Wagga, but that's all right. I do a lot of work on the Central Coast, and people from Sydney can't say a single Central Coast I'm blanking now. Can't say any of the areas on the Central Coast, any of the suburbs on the Central Coast. Can't get any of them right. So don't stress. Lovely. So to wrap that all up, you're looking to hit the 15K. And even if you said the close, as long as you get as close as you can, it's a big step in the right direction. I definitely. Yeah. I've never been involved on the inside of Team New South Wales, but I would hazard a guess the most it's ever pulled would be around the 4K mark. That could be off by a or could be wildly off. Someone in the chat will probably know more than me, but that's a lofty goal. What would you say to any potential sponsors that are listening or watching right now about the exposure or the positive association with Team New South Wales is moving forward? What would be your pitch to guys?
I mean, look, I think in terms of what it is that you're actually sponsoring, we're one of the biggest things is sportsmanship and fair play and inclusivity, and that they're basic requirements before anyone's even considered. You can be the best player in the world. If you're a shit to play against, you're not going to get on the team, right? Simple as. So, so you're working with an organisation which is built on a basis of credibility. And that's that's a moving target. We're always looking at how we can improve that. When it comes to what I think for all organisations, it's what's in it for me, right? And we're working to professionalise the organisation. We're actively looking to grow our socials and bring more engagement in our social media, and that will make any sponsorship more valuable for that sponsor. Because as I said, it's not a cheap hobby. This hobby, and a lot of people that are involved in it, are consumers. Well, everyone's a consumer, but they're valuable consumers. So we are a community that organisations should want to get involved with, and should want to be linked to, because we're, I think we are a valuable group of consumers. So, yeah.
Lovely. Well, to bring the mood back up, Jake Mellon, if Gashy sells himself, we get there. Have we thought about doing the team of 8 do a nudie calendar? Has that been considered?
It hasn't. It could be. That could be really funny for Christmas.
I think if you lean into the funny side of it enough, I think it could work for sure.
Yeah.
What size Titan would you need to cover your crutch, Gashy? Would you need I think I could get away with a squat.
I think at least a repulsive executioner. Depends how cold it is.
I'm pretty sure they get the heaters on in those rooms, mate, if you're going to be in the nuts. But that's an idea. Put that one in the back pocket, and that one's from Jake if it ever comes to fruition.
Yeah, I know where his mind goes.
So we've talked a lot about basically your role supporting the team. The way that you explained it to me was that Taylor is all on table, and basically everything else is you. So at the end of the day, the boys have got to get there. They've got to bring good armies. They've got to play good games. They've got to get good results. But you and your team are going to be a large part of what goes on for everything else. In a best case scenario, how do you see your performance as team manager affecting the performance of the team actually on the table? Maybe like not a percentage or anything, but like, would you consider what you're implementing to potentially see a change of improvement in the team?
100%. I mean, obviously, it's not gonna make someone a 50% better player, right? It's not going to make someone a better player, but everyone, we all know when we go to a tournament and we play really well, right? And it's when we're not stressed, right? When we're prepared, when there's nothing that goes wrong, like we hit traffic or all these silly little things that go on. So if you think about taking your army up and going away for 3 days to a different state, right? There's a lot of stress involved in that potentially. And then there's, on top of that, financial stress from having to pay for it in the first place and all these sorts of things. So as far as I'm concerned, if we can remove as much stress as possible, so that all the team have to think about is, eat, shit and play, then sorry, I keep swearing. I'm not sure if that's allowed on stream. I'm assuming it is.
Our logo is literally beer bottles, mate. I'm sure you can. You've got as many S bombs as you want in one C bomb all episode, right?
Fantastic. So let's see if I can hit quota then. So yeah, it's about taking those stresses away from the team. So ensuring that the logistics are well organised. Nobody has to worry about like what time their flight is and any of the other arrangements. No one's worrying about booking taxis. Like everything's just organised so that they literally just have to think about 40k. I think there's no more to it than that, really. It's about providing a platform, the best possible foundation for that team to go and do what they do, basically. Because I know how good the players are in this state, and I know that if on their day, I don't think anyone can beat them. So
I like it. I like the confidence. Now, I mentioned it a bit early before, and I asked for a similar answer for the sponsors, but you say that it's just simple as this is what you've got to do this for the boys. But like as we've been talking about this whole podcast, for the wider project that you were building, it's basically a community building project at a wider level. And at a fundamental level, this project is going to fail or pass with just the buy-in from the larger community. And that's all the way from people that will attend the gala dinner, people that will come to your training events, to maybe someone. When we first did our first run of shirts, we sold one to a bloke in Broken Hill. We sold I don't even know if I've met anyone from Broken Hill in my life. One of our sets of objective markers just turned up on a table last week in Adelaide. So at that point, what you're trying to do to get where you want to go, you need a lot of investment from Team New South Wales. And as someone that's I've never been on the team and I've never done any of the coaching roles, but I've talked to a lot of people who have, and I know for a fact that in the past, that once the 8 is selected, sometimes even the 16 that were there, because that's how they've done it previously. It went 16 to 8, and even the drop off between those 16 to 8, getting practice to them, like the investment did drop off. So what I would ask is, what's your pitch to the bloke that plays RTTs 4 hours north of Sydney and has never even considered to play for the 40K team, but he's heard you talk about the duck bills, the investment, the branding you want to put out? What's your pitch to the average 40K player to back this New South Wales team moving forward?
Look, I mean, it's ultimately, I think, really we're specifically talking to the tournament playing community here, although there will be people that don't play tournaments that maybe used to, or just, love 40K and still want to support the team. But I think it's the tournament players which are really invested, in competitive 40K. So it doesn't matter where you live, you're still from New South Wales, right? You still can potentially get on that team. I would say come and play an event in Maitland, and we'll come and meet you there, and maybe you'll get to play some real top players, and we all know that when we play the top guys, they don't just beat us; they beat us and coach us at the same time. It's the more the community can support the development of itself to become better, the more of those real top players that we're going to produce, and then they just continue to hand that knowledge down, and improve everyone else.
So Team New South Wales is on the up. Jump on. Is that what you're telling us?
Absolutely. Look, there's no obligation. People don't have to support it if they don't want to. But I think most people that are invested in the tournament scene, would probably have aspirations that they'd love to be good enough to be able to get on the team. And I think one thing that we really want to do, and this was really started by Greg and, in the previous management, was when they opened up the Discord, is to take away the mystery. It is possible to get on the team. Not everyone is capable of developing to the level of being good enough to be on that 8, but there's probably a lot more people that could get close to it, or maybe even get there, than what are there at the moment. And it's just because it's there's that bit of mystery around it, and people just say, "Oh, I'll never get there," but actually, no, you maybe could. So a man's reach has to exceed his grasp, right?
I like it, Gashi. Very good. I think that's a good place to start wrapping up the Team New South Wales stuff. Is there any parting words before we move on to maybe a bit of your time in England and what you think of the Australian community? But any parting words as a team manager?
No, look, just to say thank you again for everyone that believed in me to do this role. I'm, really try to give it my best shot, and do the best for you guys. Please do come to the end of your party, because I love a bloody good party, and it's going to be such a good night. So once I've booked a venue, there will be some information about that. But yeah, even if you never want to apply for the team, come along, because you're going to love it.
Love it. I do love to indulge, so you might see me there, mate. I'm sure. What part of Sydney is that looking at being at? You haven't even got.
So I mean, as I say, I haven't booked a venue yet. I think probably the one that's definitely high on the list of being a probable is Padstow, if they've got availability, because it's the right price point. There's a great relationship there, and they're a friend of the community, so and they have the right size venue. But look, until I book something, it wouldn't be fair to say.
Yeah, too easy. So, all right, I'd love to hear. I always love hearing about what's going on in England. And you said you've come into 40K real recently, but jumped in the deep end pretty fast.
Yeah.
What can you say? And you said you say you went to was it the London GT or the UK?
Oh, yeah, I've done loads of UK TCs. So London was my first proper GT. I think I've done 2 GTs before that, but they were GTs because they were 2 days. Like one of them was, I think, 13 players, and the other one was 24 players. So they weren't big GTs by UK standards. So LGT, first big one, and that was like 800 and something players. So that was insane. Managed to go 3-2 there, which I was really, really pleased with. And then I've done Nottingham, Leicester, done some others as well. I can't remember which other one. Yeah, I've done quite a few of the big ones, and then lots of smaller events, some RTTs, and I ran a teams tournament myself, which was really good. So yeah, it's an interesting scene.
You mentioned a bit earlier that what would you say? You said the community is a bit more dispersed, which is interesting to me, because I would have thought England's so small and it's so populated, so I would have assumed it would be easier that everyone Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, but you know what, mate? It still takes a long time to get anywhere. So it's very congested on the roads there. So to go from where I live in the Midlands, or lived in the Midlands, to play at London GT, it's like a 2.5 hour car journey. So it's like you do see. There is a travelling crew. The elite players will generally go to pretty much all of the UKTC events, but there's a lot of regulars. But in terms of just maybe it's because it's a smaller community here, and maybe because I'm in Sydney, but it feels like so much tighter here. Like everybody knows everybody. You see all the same players at each event. In the UK, it just doesn't feel that cohesive. Don't get me wrong, it's still a really good community. It's not as tight as what it is here. Yeah.
What was your first, not impressions when you got here, but what were you expecting before you arrived? When you realised you come to Australia and you're like, all right, well, what's going on in 40K in Australia? Does any content get over to England? Is there any knowledge? If you ask the average English player, do they know anything about the Australian scene at all?
I mean, I knew nothing about it, so I just kind of expected it to be fairly similar because it's 40K, right? But it's I mean, there's a lot of different factions which are popular here. So I've never played against Orcs throughout the whole of 10th. Like my first 2 games and my first RTT here were against Orcs. See a lot more players here, and it's just different makeup of factions. Obviously, the terrain is different here as well. You know,
different everywhere here.
but UKTC terrain is obviously its own thing. It's changed a bit now, but it used to be incredibly open. You know, which obviously changes the play style quite a lot. It's also the same missions every single tournament. So round one at Leicester is the same as round one at Northampton, Nottingham. The only ones, I think Coventry is slightly different because it's a 3-dayer. And I think London may be slightly different, although I'm not sure London actually is. But yeah, you know, so that's very different because it changes every single tournament here, even like down under French's Forest. It's, you know, it's a different mission rule and terrain set every month. So I've forgotten the original question, mate. I've been droning on and I've forgot what you asked me.
I forgot what I asked you too, mate. So that's two of us. Oh no! I said, what were you expecting? And I said,
no, I mean, I've travelled a lot with work, right, and been to a lot of different countries, and I do a lot of travel personally as well, and I've learned not to go somewhere with preconceived expectations because you're always wrong, and you're either disappointed or pleasantly surprised. But if you go somewhere, you know, and just take it for what it is, then you actually, you don't go with preconceived ideas. So I just I turn up and see how I get on. I expected to probably get smashed my first couple of games because obviously everything's, slightly different. But no, I've done all right, to be fair. So I held my own by and large.
Yeah. I like that. Have you got any 3-0s at the RTTs yet?
Yeah. I won one of yours. It was.
I'll probably put a picture of you. Did you get a picture smiling with the Emperor?
I did. Yeah. I was very fortunate because all of the top players were. It was either a big GT. I think it might have been a Team New South Wales training day or something like that. So I had the opportunity, but yeah, that was a good one.
We can't catch a break with these clashes lately, mate. I got to talk to someone. CrewCon next weekend.
Hey.
You going to CrewCon?
Oh, absolutely, mate. All day long. Yeah, can't wait.
Should be good. So you're in the Discord, in the New South Wales Discord the other day, and you were talking a little bit about the New South Wales scene, and a lot of the boys were kind of disregarding smaller events over here and just saying that they didn't mean as much as mainly from a statistical point of view. But you jumped in and just said that in general for the events you've been at, the level of play is pretty decent over here.
I mean,
can you speak on that a little bit?
So I think, I think part of this could be because, if I think of the French's Forest Down Under tournament, if there's no other tournaments on, that is the biggest Shark Tank I've ever been to. It's insane. There's literally no easy games at all. And you can be, to get 2-1 is a real achievement in that. If you go there and win it, you've had to beat some real top players. But we were talking specifically about GTs during that conversation. And I think my point was that if we think about Dice Arcade a few weeks ago, like 70 odd players, but as soon as if you get to sort of 2 or 3-0, you're into a really serious player. Right now, if you think about like a 400-person tournament in the UK, I've been to multiple big tournaments in the UK. I've never played against a top player, and I've gone 2-0. To start off with, and you just the chances of versing in someone who's insanely good is a lot less because it's such a bigger spread of players, and you do get a lot of you get that probably bottom 5-10%, which are going for a bit of a jolly and just want to get their models on the table, maybe more into the hobby than actual competitive play. Some people just going for the to try and win the painting competition. And then you've got probably 20 guys in the UK at the top at each tournament, which are really, you're just not going to beat them, unless you're also at that level. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a really big sort of next level down, but even so, you've got to be relatively unlucky to not. If you're any type of player, you should always go 3-2. Unless you've messed up with your list or you've just something's gone wrong somewhere. But 3-2 is pretty straightforward. 4-1 is quite challenging. I've never done it at UKTC. You tend to come up against someone pretty good, but I think it's easier to do that at a UKTC event with 400 people than it is at a dice arcade with 70 people, where 15 of those or 20 of those people have played for Team New South Wales and some have played for Team Australia. And then the next level down from that is also really serious players that are capable of going 4-1 at tournaments, So when half the field is stacked, it's like, that's a much more difficult GT, yet you score less ITC points. Mm-hmm. So you might go 4-1 at Dice Arcade and score less ITC points than going 3-2 at a UKTC major. Doesn't make any sense.
Get into it, mate. I don't mind it because it encourages people to come to big events, which I like running. But we got Sam in the chat, Sam Lemon. Gashi, I know you're a big proponent of sportsmanship. How have you found the Australian community for sportsmanship compared to the UK? So maybe not rank them, but have you seen any differences? Is there any faux pas over here that you found were a bit weird? Or
no, I mean, I've been very lucky. I've faced very good opponents while I've been out here. I think it's more of a focus here, and I couldn't even say what that is, but there's definitely, there's I know Jay at his events, he's really, really upfront about it, and talks about it very openly. That's what he pushes, and applaud him for that. But there is much more of a focus about it here. It's kind of, I don't think there's bad sportsmanship in the UK. I've come across one guy who's a renowned cheater. I didn't verse him, but my friend did. He's also banned from UKTC, by the way. I won't name him. But it's not something that I've seen to be particularly prevalent anywhere, to be honest. I had I think my first game at LGT. My opponent, whether he did it on purpose, he tried to claim that Bellacore had his 6-inch aura before he landed on the table. And that was my first interaction at my first major GT. He called him out and said, "No, that doesn't sound right. I don't think that's right." Got one of the Team Poland judges to come over, and he said, "No." And that guy was a little bit challenging. He was also mortally hungover from the night before, so that could have played a part in it. But no, I mean, look, by and large, I don't really have any issues with sportsmanship myself in terms of people that I've played. So.
I think one of the big things that people would notice about the England scene right now is definitely the professionalism of the UKTC tournaments and how they've just stepped it up to the next level. Obviously, you guys are bringing a level of professionalism to New South Wales through Team New South Wales. There is an avenue for someone to push that in Australia to take the tournament scene a bit more seriously. I guess I would say everyone that does it here does it as a hobby, nearly exclusively. Do you reckon there's an avenue for that in New South Wales to take it as a part-time job or as a bit of a money earner and really up the professionalism side of the events run?
No, I mean, like Zach, who runs UKTC, that's a full-time job. I mean, he's making, from what I understand, really serious money out of it. But I think the difference is like, if you look at the geographical spread of where he holds his events, it's from basically London to Leeds to Manchester, right? Well, that's still smaller than New South Wales. So to do that at a scale, to do it across Australia, it's really challenging because, you know, like UKTC, they have their terrain sets. They're all like pre-built. They're in a box, and they drive them all to the event in a van with all the other things that they need, their table toppers and whatnot. And they have a team that go in and set it all up, right? But when you can do that journey in 4 hours, right, from your base, no matter where in the UK you're going, that's very different to like you're based in Sydney and you're trying to put an event on in Perth. You know, if you've got to start flying a container worth of terrain or whatever, you know, a truck worth of terrain, to drive it is going to take you, what, a week? Or certainly a few days.
Few days, yes, and a decent bit car and all this other stuff. Yeah, it's not easy.
So it's a very different challenge to do that here, I think. Not to mention that I don't know too much about what the other states do, but I know from listening to some of the podcasts, you know, ever since I've been here, that each state has got a very well embedded tournament community and tournament scene. So someone new to come in and just say, right, we're just going to start running massive GTs. I think that'd be quite challenging to go into those different areas and try and do that. So it'd require quite a lot of diplomacy, you know. But yeah, it'd be something. It'd be great to see, wouldn't it? To be like, you know, to have a super major. But you know, then of course you've got to get a venue big enough. You've got to be able to guarantee you get enough people. Because what do you want for super major? Probably 100 minimum, I guess.
Yeah, if you're going to travel, yeah. Well, Adelaide did 250 maybe its peak year. I should know this since I was there. And they're aiming for 300 this time, but that didn't happen. So I reckon if you advertise it right, you should be looking 150, 200 if you're going to do a capital city. Yeah. But yeah, it definitely has its different set of challenges, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Now, when I was kind of brainstorming the run for this, I was asking Sam Lemon for a bit of input. So shout out to Sam for that. And one of the words he mentioned with what you guys are doing with Team New South Wales was pioneers and doing something new. Have you considered, like, I think one of the things that Australia pioneered at the WTC is we took over a large support team. We took 4 blokes over instead of traditionally it was 1. And now it's grown to the point where I believe England's taking over a support person for every player. So
wow. Yeah, because they've only got to go to Belgium. I mean, it's a fairly...
You say wow, but that step's smaller than what you guys are doing right now, I think.
Yeah.
Do you see have you ever considered that maybe some of the other states will look at what you're doing and maybe think they need to step up their fundraising? Because I know that traditionally WA are very well supported. Queensland have got a great community. Do you guys see yourself as pioneers for the next level of taking the state teams to I guess their natural conclusion as a esport, or not even an esport, but semi-competitive, semi-professional thing?
I mean, I hadn't even thought of it that way, mate, to be honest. You know, I kind of just trying to do...
From other states will be listening to this podcast with like thinking, wow, these guys are going to get some, that's for sure.
I'm just trying to do the best that, you know, we're trying to do the best that we can for the team this year. And, you know, I know that, you know, I'm a 3-2 guy, right? So in terms of playing stuff, I don't have much to add that's going to be useful for the team, right? I'm a good player, but I'm not a great player. What I am good at is all the background stuff and management and fundraising and sales and negotiation and all that type of stuff. You know, so I'm just trying to use the skill set that I've got to benefit the team as best as I can. And look, if that helps to professionalize some of the other teams and, you know, they see things that are of value in what we're doing, I think that's great, mate, to be honest. Because you know, like I said before, you liken it to esports, and like the top esports players, you know, they are put on a pedestal. Like, well, we should be doing the same for our top players, you know, and not in a suck up kind of way, but like, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you play for Team Australia or you play for Team England or you play for play for your state, you go out there and represent your community, you deserve the respect, you know, and that will inspire other people to want to be in that role as well. You know, because when you're seen as a pillar, a leader of the community, other people also want to aspire to get there. You know, and that just helps to bring the level up. You know, if you look at, you know, any professional sport, that's generally how it works.
Lovely. I think that's a great way to end it, Gashi. If anyone wants to reach out to Team New South Wales, either as a sponsor, as a supporter, someone that might want to play, how can they reach you guys?
Probably the easiest is my personal email. So can I just leave that as a
comment down below, and then in the podcast, we'll tuck it in the description.
Yeah. So look, any online retailer that is interested in being the Team New South Wales Duckbills official partner, please reach out to me. I will be trying to reach out to, you know, those of you that I know of, you know, in due course, you know, but feel free to reach out to me. Love to talk to you and see what we can do together with the partnership.
Lovely. And the Discord for the players, how would they find out about that?
Either message that, so they can. First thing is join the Team New South. The Duckbills Facebook page.
Here we go.
Right, so follow the page. You can comment on that page and ask. I will ask Todd to put the link to the Discord. In fact, I'll check with Greg if he wants the link on there. I think he might want to control, you know, have some not just being on the public internet. But I think you can message myself, you can message Greg, you can message Taylor, and you know, any of us will give you the link to the Discord, or Todd. Obviously, he's running the socials now, so. You know.
Lovely. And then if you can't find any of them, just message the Down Under 40K Facebook page. We will send you in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on, Gashi. I do appreciate it. I'd like to. Well, we better get on to our sponsors. So we are also sponsored by Tip Top Terrain. So shout out to Daniel and the crew getting around it. They do some really great WTC sets. I know he's just sold a gazillion to the 8-man teams, so that should be pretty fun. We got Emperor. They are our major sponsor for all of our prize support at our events. So get around them. They're an online retailer. Everything you need for your GWs. D6 Designs AU, a little Etsy store that does custom dice. It's actually got the Down Under 40K dice on there, so get around that. And then if you have been listening to this and you enjoyed it, maybe jump in the feed. Sam does a heap of content on the wide world of Warhammer, and I'll be back. Who knows? Maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in a year. That's kind of my schedule for having a yarn. But thanks to everyone for listening, and thanks for coming on, Gashi.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you. Thanks for having me.